Hello and welcome to the Wren Den. I'm Wren, this is the Den, and today I want to share with you, after 6 months of working in secret, the year in embroidery. So a year in embroidery is designed by Nikki at Little Light Stitchery, and you can get it in various levels of like basic to like full kit. So I got the sort of mid-tier version, which was at the time just the fabric, and there's a sort of a lining fabric as well. You can see there's 2 layers here. And then I did actually later buy a hoop from her because I thought I had one that was big enough and it's simply too huge and I don't, or I didn't. So I've sort of had that. But you can get the there's a whole sort of plethora of little bits and bobs that you can get depending on what you already have and how much sort of you want to put together your own kit, which I really appreciate. I think that makes it sort of really personalizable and like giftable, but also just fun to play with. Anyway, so it's not properly aligned in the frame. This is slightly closer to here than it should be, but this is not the final form. Once I've finished the year, I will be reframing it somehow. I don't like these just like plain brown like wood hoops to display with, and I'd sort of like it to be edgeless. So I need to look into, I think there is an embroidery frame that goes inside or something. So there might be a way of doing it to play with that so that you can just kind of experience the sort of crispness of the edge. However, I really also do like the back. I think that's just very fun. So I want to find a way of displaying it where you can see the back. It's still sort of technically visible, even if it's maybe not the thing that's always on display. Anyway, you may be wondering, what do all these squares mean? So you may, I've mentioned this project a couple of times on Instagram, so if you follow me there, you may have already seen little bits and bobs of this. Basically, I am tracking the number of bird species I log per day, so that I see, that I kind of register seeing. So for example, and it's a sort of color array. I have a spreadsheet, obviously, which is a kind of digital version of this. It's the squares are color coded, and where I've needed extra details, I've logged that in the grid, and I've got my sort of color code and things on the side. Hopefully you can see all of that here. So basically where you see there's a few white squares, unfortunately. Those represent days that I have not logged any birds. Thankfully there's not very many of them so far. So I'm just shy of the last week of June, because spoilers, that's what we're going to be doing today. So I've got, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days this year where I have not logged a single bird. And the reason I'm saying logged instead of seeing is because I use a bird watching app called eBird. So basically you build a list and just like you note seeing birds in certain places at certain times. And it makes the stats really easy to track because you can see how many you've seen per day and whether I've seen any lifers, so birds that I haven't before logged, certainly on the app, which is what I'm counting as a lifer, or what I'm calling yearers. I don't know if that's a real term in bird watching, but birds that I have logged previously but not this year up until that day. Because on the grid, if you can see, some of these squares have little gold outlines and some of them have little silver outlines. The gold outlines are the lifers, the silver outlines are the yearers. And it's been quite cool to see, like, it doesn't always align with the numbers. You'd think like seeing more birds in a day would get you lifers and yearers. And yeah, obviously there's more of a chance that that's the case, but actually, like, there are a couple, like this was, so the brown square is, just referring to my list, between 11 and 15 bird species, and that's got a silver outline, which means that even in that 11 to 15 I saw a bird that I hadn't seen this year, and that was in April. So it is just kind of fun to like see not just how many, but also like what's new. You'll see that the majority color is definitely this sort of the kind of bright yellow. There's a couple of yellows which indicate the kind of lowest numbers. So obviously those are going to be the most frequent on the map, whereas where we see like darker colors and bright and like more kind of like jewel tones, those are the larger volumes of bird species. So my record so far this year for number of species in one day is 52. So that's this pale green square here, where we went to Martin Mere literally from opening time to closing time, which is like a nature reserve. And yeah, we managed to find 52 bird species, which is really cool. But most of them, like, there are a lot of that are just like 1 to 5, which is okay, because that's like things I've seen from the window, or like walking around like near where I live. Most of the brown ones are probably, like, a lot of the brown and orange are going to be from going to our local woods, because that's about the number that I see when I go there. So like there is sort of like memory built into this. Ooh, texture quite nice. There's memory built into this, and like this was an all day at Martin Mere. This one that I've just done, this was towards the end of June, was the zoo, and we were going around like looking for, you know, you don't obviously get a guarantee that when you go to like the leopard enclosure you're going to actually see a leopard, and we were just me and my partner were just like gasping and being like, oh, look, a blackbird, because we hadn't logged one that day. And everyone was being like, you have to stop gasping when you see a regular bird, because we're looking for like leopards and otters and stuff. So, you know, maybe got some hopes up there, but it was a really fun day, and I'm sort of glad that that is a like more standout square on this, to just be that memory of that. So we're 6 months in, pretty much exactly to the day. You'll notice the last week of June is not filled yet. That's what we're going to do today, because first of all, it gets us to pretty much the middle. It gets us to 6 months in, and I really like that as a milestone. And I wasn't sure when to share this project with you, whether to wait until the end of the year and then like do a little montage of filling up the squares when I've remembered to take a photo. And like obviously I probably will do a video either at the end of the year or the beginning of next year, just to be like, look, it's finished, ha, and framing it and things like that. But I did want to find an opportunity to share it with you in the middle of the year as well, because it's a quiet little thing that I'm working on in the background, but it's really nice and it's really good fun. And you can start at any time in the year that you want. You know, just because it starts at the beginning of January doesn't mean you have to start at the beginning of January. Nikki, who designed it, has been doing 2 for half of this year, because she started one out at the solstice, the summer solstice last year, and has been like working up to like meeting that point. So has done the second half first and the first half second. So like there's no rules. And you can fill the squares with whatever stitches you like. I'm using, I think it's called a road stitch. I should have looked that up before I started filming. But yeah, it's just a nice little way of filling a square, and then do a border so that it's a little bit tidier, and also because then I can represent the years and the lifers within the square, which is really nice. So the other reason why I wanted to show you the process specifically for the last week of June is because it was kind of a special week. We went to Wales for a holiday, and it was like the longest holiday that we've done since being together that wasn't also like a job, that wasn't also like someone has a thing that we need to go to, so let's also tag a holiday onto it. It was just a holiday for fun. And it was really beautiful. It was really warm, as you may remember from that week of June. So we did sort of have to dodge the heat and the sun a little bit, but we still ended up seeing loads of birds. And I think this is going to be a more interesting week to show you than the average week, because the average week, as you'll be able to see, is a lot of yellow. And then you can sort of see where the weekends are, because often on the weekend there's just a little pop of colour where we managed to actually like go outside properly for, you know, more than like 20 minutes. Like I try and do like lunchtime walks because it sort of helps to keep me steadier, but it doesn't always come through. Whereas it's kind of easier to go out of the weekend when it's more than just you. So often the pops of colours are weekend based. But because we went to a bunch of different places and saw a bunch of different birds, there are much more fun colours in this. I say week, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 days, because I wanted to include the 2 days after we got back as well, because I did manage to like stay out of the yellow for that time. And then yeah, then it's a very pleasing, like that's the first 6 months done, on to the next 6 months. So other than the fact that I've just talked for a long time, this video is going to be quite a quiet one. It's probably going to end up being short-ish. I say that, you'll know the runtime, I won't. But I hope that you'll enjoy it, and I hope that you will enjoy the process. It takes about 5 minutes to do one square, so it's really achievable as a project. Like, I'm not doing this every day, I'm doing it maybe once a week, once a month, depending on how busy I get. But you can catch up on a month probably in like 2 or 3 days of just like doing it in between other things, so it is really doable. So yeah, we're just going to have a play. I'm going to show you the stitch that I do for these ones, and there also might be some footage in here and like pictures of the holiday if I deem any of them worth sharing, because all of these squares represent like memories and adventures and seeing cool things, and like we saw a lot of lifers and yearers on this holiday. So there's going to be a lot of using the shiny thread is quite fiddly, but the effect is really nice, so I'm sticking with it. And yeah, maybe we'll talk a little bit about the fun things that happened on those days. But otherwise, it's kind of going to be a just like hang out with me while we catch up on the embroidery. So I hope you enjoy. So I'm using 2 strands of floss per square, technically. I've just separated them and rejoined them because I think that makes for a slightly smoother texture. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to fold it in half, because I find it much easier to cast on or sort of secure the thread at the beginning. Hang on, there we go. By creating a loop at the end. So here's our next square. I'm going to come up from underneath in the middle, pull us through, and then go back down in the middle, flip it over, and then I can just pull this through this loop like that. And then, so essentially I'm working with 4 strands because I've doubled the 2, but then that's just secured nice and easily there. So it makes it slightly faster to get started. In the beginning, when I timed myself, it took probably about 7 minutes to do a square, and I'm down to 5-ish now. So it is slightly faster. I'm going a little bit slower today because I can't put my face so close to the fabrics, otherwise you will just be able to see either my nose or the top of my head. And I'm trying to show you a little bit of the process, so I hope that is that you can see what's happening. And in the corners, I try and get really precise, like really get in the corner of that square. I think the sides you can be a little bit more, they're a little bit more forgiving because the borders will really sort of disguise any wigglies, but the corners, because they sort of will anchor the border, has to be a little bit more precise. So I hope you can sort of see what I'm doing. I'm kind of working around the square. I'll try and show you a more closer up one, maybe for one of the others, because this purple is quite a dark colour. But I'm sort of working around the square like if you imagine a straight line on a wheel, and then you turn it around so that the angle of that line changes, and you end up with this really nice sort of gentle wrap stitch that makes the center of the square quite a lot deeper than the rest of it. And just builds that really nice texture. And once we've filled in the square, I'll flip it over again, and I'm just going to secure it by running it through the underside of the square 2 or 3 times. And then we're going to split this so that it's 2 and 2. Doesn't really matter which 2. And then I'm going to cut that with a little bit of excess. And then you can pull this up to straighten that. And then I just pull and the loose ones will come out, which halves the thickness of the thread, because the borders of the squares are done with just 2 strands, and doing this is a lot faster and less wasteful for thread, I think, than casting off and recasting on with thinner thread. It's not easier if you don't pull it out. And unfortunately, I got too distracted in the process and I've done it wrong. This is what I get when I talk too much. So actually I shouldn't have done the border on that one, because we saw a lifer that day, which I think was a bar-tailed godwit. Fortunately, because I did the tie-off that I did, it's actually quite easy to undo the border. Okay, so actually, and I've already secured that, so I'm going to cut that off. And then we'll actually need some gold thread to go around the outside of that. So the main difference between doing the outlines for regular squares and the outlines for shiny squares is, first of all, it's more fiddly. But because the metallic threads are narrower, I've got 2 strands, but I'm going to double them, just like I did to make the main bit. And then let's see if I can get all of these in here. Yes. Threading it's probably the hardest single bit. Yeah, I think I managed to get all of those in there. And then I need to make sure that these loops are the same size. And then I'm going to anchor it to the middle of the underside of the square. So we pull it through there. Same way as the main bit, because we've doubled it. Just moving very carefully. Then I'm going to go around the outside. There we go, shiny. Did I film any of that one? I'm not now sure. So, after a bit of trial and error, I figured out that a square with a border takes about 50 centimeters, possibly slightly less, but I like to give myself a little bit of wiggle room. So even the ones where, so for example, this one is a lifer square, so it won't need a border, but I'm still cutting it to 50 because it's really hard to tell once it's cut whether it's the shorter or the longer length. And so I don't want to cut it the shorter length, then need it for a border, and then not realise, and then that's just messy and annoying. So I'm not doing that. So yeah, basically I'm just cutting all the threads to 50 centimeters, which is nice and straightforward. So the next square I'm doing is a pale yellow square, slap bang in the middle of the week. Why is this so long? Oh, I was doing doubles with it. Well, there we go. It was yeah, slap bang in the middle of the week. No lifers, no yearers. I saw 5 bird species. And the reason for that is it was like 36 degrees or something ridiculous. And we'd been out late the night before on a nightjar walk, which was so cool. If you get a chance to do something like that, it was an RSPB event. And it was amazing. It was so magical. And we didn't even get bitten by bugs. Well, I got bit by one bug. But other than that, we avoided it, which in itself was kind of miraculous because we had to be out quite late to see the nightjars because they come out at night, clues in the name. But that meant that A of all, we were shattered the next day because we'd been up till midnight. And we're in our 30s now, so we can't do that. And B of all, it was 36 degrees. So we stayed in. We played like little mini board games, and we played a like an escape room magazine, which was really cool. So the whole escape room is in this magazine, and if you, in theory, if you write everything, like make notes on a different piece of paper, then the whole thing's reusable, which is really cool. There's no like cutting out or folding of the actual pages required. So it's not like a one-time use, which I think is some of the problem with these like paper, like you can get ones in envelopes that are really good fun, but they are just, you can only use them once and then that's it. So we spent most of the day playing that and stepping outside every like couple of hours to assure ourselves that it was in fact still heinously hot out. So I don't feel like it was a wasted day, but it does slightly mar what is otherwise going to be a very cool looking week. However, at the same time, like with the pale green, my record for the year from Martin Mirror in April, it's going to stand out in its environment, and that will prompt the memory of that week, which, like, obviously 36 degrees was not fun, but we made a really nice day out of it, and it was just nice to spend time together without having to sort of think about like logistics and, you know, oh, we need to do things for this time and we need to get to this place and we need to bring this, and like we just sort of hung out in a really like low-key way all day, and I think that was really nice because we're busy little bees and we rarely get to do that anymore. Although, you know, if I had to do it at home, I'd be like, this is the most boring thing in the world, I'm going to the woods. But in the middle of a busy holiday, where the temperature just wasn't like, it wasn't going to be possible to have to do anything and be like sensible in those temperatures. So I think it was absolutely the right decision. I like this stitch marker because it's bright red, so if I put the needle straight back in it when I'm done using it, I'll never lose it. I need to try and avoid doing too many pale yellow squares because I'm starting to run out of this thread, and this is already a refill. So I'm trying to get my numbers up to like at least, like, I've got loads of this darker yellow and I'm trying to get the numbers up to at least that more often than not, just to use less yellow or use the yellow less fast, because I'm going to need to go back to, like, you can order one skein of embroidery floss at a time online, but I feel like that's going to be way more expensive than it's worth. So I need to get to the shop, which means a bit of forward planning, which means not running out of the yellow for as long as possible. It's really annoying. Sad. Guess I'll use this one now. I don't like this one. Oh, chicken. Hi, baby. The camera is angled poorly. Hang on. Sorry, I'm not trying to be down. Yeah? I didn't really want you to be on that. Why don't you be a baby instead? There you go. So cozy. I don't even know where the mic is right now. Oh, it's over there. So the sound on this is going to be heinous. Spike. Your baby. You know your name. Chicken. I'm slightly worried you're going to go to sleep if I leave you there. And you're already shedding. You big baby. I love you. Come on. I got things to do. Right, where were we? Ah, yes. In the pit of despair. Otherwise known as using shiny thread. Well, that's the shiny ones done. So, as fun as they were to experience, I'm slightly glad that that phase of the embroidery is over. So we've just got a couple more to do until we finish June. So this first one, this Orange Day, was basically I wasn't ready to like give up the like good bird streak. So I went to the woods and in a sort of attempt to try and see a similar amount of birds as we did in like gorgeous coastal North Wales, which was, you know, a little bit of folly, perhaps. Especially because it's the height of summer. I haven't actually been to the woods for a while, except for a couple of days ago when I did this. And actually, it's so overgrown because obviously it's the height of summer that you really can't see that much. So I did see, like, I saw some baby blue tits. That was cute. I saw a magpie trying to like hunt blue tit babies, which was slightly scary. Like I know that they do that, but it's sort of different than suddenly seeing like the scale of the difference between the two birds and like how easily a blue tit chick is just a little snack. But as far as I can tell, they evaded the magpie. So hooray or uh-oh, depending on whether this is a magpie documentary or a Bluto documentary. But actually what I ended up taking pictures of in the woods was a lot of bugs. Some bugs I didn't know, and then a lot of like bees and butterflies. Did you know there's something like, and I'm going to get the number wrong, but it's something like 240 species of bee just in the UK, which I think is incredible, because if you think about it, people know like bumblebee, honeybee, maybe people know like the ones with the red bums, or the like mason bees that live in your walls, that are sort of solitary, because actually most of those bee species are solitary. So most of the bees in most of the bee species in the UK are actually not like hive based, which I thought was cool. So if you start, and once you sort of know that there's that many different kinds of bee, you start sort of noticing as you're walking around. And I'm about to include pictures of bees, so if you hate bugs, turn away. But you start to notice as you walk around just how many different ones there are, and you could be standing by like one plant and there's like 3 or 4 different kinds of bee on it. Like, yeah, it's just, and there's definitely going to be more like distinctions between species that are much harder to discern unless you're like an expert. So you could be looking at 2 bees and think these are the same, but one's a little bit smaller or a little bit yellower or whatever, and an expert would be like, no, but that is a completely different sort of bee. But I just think that's neat that there's so many of them, and like there's a lot of other bugs that are pollinators and fulfill important positions in the food chain and in the ecosystem, like for example being eaten by birds so that birds can live and do stuff. So like I feel like I've got a lot better in recent years, not necessarily going like trying to overrule that like learned instinct of like, ugh, a bug, and trying to kind of actually appreciate that they're here and they're doing their job, and actually their numbers are really important for a lot of other stuff as well. So I still ended up seeing 16 species of bird in the woods, but there was a lot that I could hear that I couldn't see, and I don't tend to log ones that I don't actually see. I do occasionally, if I'm particularly near a threshold, or if I hear it like really close and really clearly and I just can't see it, then sometimes I will log it. But particularly if it's the first time I will have seen that bird in this year, I try to see it before I log it, because it just feels slightly more honest to the like endeavor that I'm recording. So sometimes there's an app called Merlin where you can hear, it will record the sounds around you and tell you what kinds of birds they are. Like, it's medium good. It struggles to distinguish between the warblers, but like, don't we all? And occasionally it'll tell you that there's something really nuts, and it's like, So medium, pinch of salt. But also the problem with it is that if you turn on Merlin to go, oh, that's an interesting bird noise, I wonder what that is, and then you and then it goes, oh, it's this thing that you haven't seen that yet this year, or that you have but that is one of your favorites or is really rare, then you're just standing there going, well, now I don't want to leave because I want to see this bird. And you could be standing there for hours and just never see them, because they're just, a lot of them are so small and they just hide in the tiniest little places. Like, I've seen birds like straight up disappear, like fly into tree trunks and just vanish, because they live in a hole that you can't even see, because it's like behind a bit of bark or whatever, and it's so tiny. There's just so much nature going on immediately around you and invisibly, and I think it's so hard to appreciate that without sort of doing really kind of like focused, mindful like walks and things, which I think doing the birds has really like helped me to sort of make more kind of be more mindful about my environment rather than just going, oh, this is nice, but actually sort of going, there are whole worlds here that exist without and outside of me that have nothing to do with me but are important in their own right. And I think that's really valuable. Also nearly run out of this brown, but I do have the next floss for that, so I'm okay. And then for the final day of June, it was a very pedestrian, like normal day. We did all the normal things that we would normally do on a Tuesday. But even so, because I had to do a couple of like local errands, and I don't drive, so I was walking to stuff, and I still saw 11 different species just like in a 5-6 minute radius of my house, which is really incredible. I mean, I got lucky a little bit because I managed to spot. I know for a fact there's a bunch of house sparrows that live in this particular hedge, and so often they're just totally invisible, and you just can't see them at all. But I did manage to spot a couple, and like just little things like that, and like even like gulls flying overhead, like they count. You know, you wouldn't think that you have that much in your environment, but part of it is just you get used to what is in your environment, and you think of it as sort of ordinary and pedestrian. And again, if you're actually like paying attention and kind of going, oh yeah, there's not much wildlife around here. Oh wait, in the span of like probably 25 minutes total of walking around outside, doing like not standing and staring at hedges and looking at birds, like on my way to stuff, moving around, but just keeping my eyes open and my ears open and like being aware of what I'm walking through and around. There's more than you think, and things that seem common to you because they're local to you or are in your garden, other people will be like, oh wow, you're so lucky, I can't believe you managed to see that. So like, you know, I think people think that you have to go out with binoculars and, you know, all the proper gear to see fun wildlife, but actually there is something to be said for looking around you where you are with that kind of same like curiosity and open-eyedness that you would take into the natural world, and that you would, if you went out for like especially, that you would like trying to bring that appreciation into your local place, and like seeing a blackbird out of your window, and rather than going like, ah, yeah, fine, a blackbird again, being like, oh, I wonder what it's up to today, and just sort of like, that is a choice that you can make to not let the pedestrian become boring or become background, I guess, and to like allow yourself to be excited even if it's not a thing that objectively people would be excited about. Like if I went to the woods and saw like all four kinds of like the common tits that you would get in the local woods, which is blue, great, coal, and longtail. There's a couple of other types in the UK, but we don't get them here. They're more rarer. And like I came back and I was like, oh, I saw a blue tit. People would be like, yeah. But like, it is cool to just see little creatures out and about enjoying their lives and just like doing things, you know, doing their own stuff. And it sort of helps to contextualize your life a little bit and your problems. Like sometimes I think bird watching is almost like when you go out at night in like a dark sky place, or even just like a bit rural, where you can see some stars, like enough stars where you can kind of get into the headspace of, I'm such a small part of the universe, and that doesn't, not in a way that like, oh, and therefore I'm insignificant, but in a way that's like, everything will just go on without me. If you see what I mean. And like, it sort of does take the pressure off a little bit of being like, look, some things I can do stuff about. Most of the universe, the vast, vast, vast majority of it, is going to operate in the way that it will, with or without me having any opinion about it. And I think it just helps to contextualize like how big of a deal some stuff is sometimes, and just it does take the pressure off a little bit, which I find quite helpful, because I sort of have a tendency to want to fix everything for everyone all of the time, and it's just not plausible. You just can't, you know. Okay, that's where we're up to. That's half the year in birds. Some of those days have just been incredible, and some of them have been really hard, and I'm really pleased. Obviously I'm like disappointed in the white squares a little bit, but I'm really pleased that there's so few of them, and that anytime I haven't managed to log a bird, it hasn't discouraged me to do it the next day. And yeah, I'm going to be really proud of this, as like, this is in itself is an accomplishment. I've never in my life managed to have such a long period of like doing a thing that like a daily tracking thing. Never in my life have I managed to keep something like this up for this long. So I'm really pleased with it. I think the format is really delightful, and the texture of these is just, I wish I could communicate that to you, but you should just have to make your own and find out. And you don't have to track words, obviously. You could track all sorts of things. You could track steps, or books, like reading books, like pages read, or like weather, temperature, obviously. Like you can track all sorts of things. And but I really like this as a record of the year's adventures, and I'm very much tempted to do another one next year in like a different color palette, and then have them next to each other as sort of contrasting like art displaying a similar thing. So before I sign off, I wanted to let you know a little bit of news, which is I am getting all of my hair cut off tomorrow for charity. Like, I'm going to donate the hair itself to charity. It's insanely long. This is, for me, I understand that people have longer hair, but like for me, this is very long. I actually can't really get the whole thing in frame, but you get the gist. It's really, really long. And tomorrow is the big day where I'm getting it cut. I have a video up on YouTube and a couple of videos up on Instagram, as well as the donation link in my Instagram like bio. By the time you see this video, my hair will be much shorter than it is right now. But I'm going to leave the fundraiser up for a week or so after the cut. So I'm going to, there's a few days basically between you'll see this video and then probably end of the next week I'll close the fundraiser. We have already hit the goal, which is £700, which is the amount that it takes the Little Princess Trust, who I'm donating the hair to make a wig for a young person who's suffering from hair loss. So I'm so incredibly pleased with that. I just think that's, I've been blown away by people's support. But yeah, I'll put the link in the description for this video as well, if you feel like donating. But I just wanted to let you know that that's a little update. The funny thing about the queue means that the next couple of videos will be me with long hair still, because I'm doing this slightly out of order, because I wanted to do a section of the year in embroidery and then publish the video as close as possible to doing that section, so it's vaguely present. So there's a couple of videos still in the queue that I'll push back, so I will still have long hair in those. But I'm going to post some update pictures on Instagram, so if you want to have an eye on that, then head over there. I think the link is in my channel page, but it's at Welcome to the Rendon if it's not. So yeah, that was just a little bit of news that I wanted to share. Obviously no pressure in terms of donating, but this has taken about 3 years to grow to this length, so I'm not going to be able to do it again anytime soon, so I want to make it count. But we've already done amazingly well, and yeah, I'm just excited to have slightly less hair given the heat. Like, it's already starting to feel like it's not really a part of me anymore. It's just this thing I'm carrying around, and like my head just feels heavy. And you know that thing of, if you've ever had long hair, you'll know, like, if it's behind me and I sit down, immediately like my head is tethered to the chair because it's sandwiched between my back and the chair, and I'm finding that quite hard work, and washing it is starting to become an event. So yeah, I think it's time, but I'm really happy and glad to be able to make it like count for something and not just throw it away and give it to someone who is gonna like feel more confident and feel, you know, I had hair loss from chemotherapy when I was like 24, and you know, it does stuff to your sort of personal image definitely, to go through that. So I'm just pleased to be in a position to be able to support somebody else who's going through that sort of thing. So yeah, anyway, that's enough rambling from me. I hope that this was a nice chill video. I'm really pleased to have been able to show you the year in embroidery, and I will show it to you again once it is finished, so probably early next year, depending on December's always kind of insane, so I probably will need a little catch up early January to finish it off. But yeah, that's that, and I'll put the link to the website that you can buy this kit from as well, because yeah, like I say, there's like a good sort of, the last time I checked anyway, there was a sort of quite a modular like approach to it, which is good. And yeah, it's, I would advise get one of the hoops because it's enormous. Anyway, I think I said that's enough rambling from me and then continued to ramble. This is genuinely enough rambling from me. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. Take care, and I'll see you on the next project.